Oh, you're so sweet, I swear. Te mando un besito.
All right, we're on Disco Acid Cult TV. It's Thursday. We're not usually live on Thursdays, but you know, whatever. We like to switch things up once in a while. We like to break the rules sometimes. So we're getting on here tonight. We're seeing what's up. There's more. There's another clip from that Sydney Sweeney interview that I missed last night. We talked about this on the stream last night. But today on Twitter, there's another clip going around. There's a meme that's also come out of the interview, which is awesome. But there's another clip going around now. And of course, you know, the nerds on Twitter are freaking out about this as if they don't already have enough to freak out about constantly. But the interviewer, this is so ridiculous. Sydney Sweeney is awesome in way too many ways at this point, right? Like, aside from just clearly being the hottest actress in Hollywood today, she's also just great as a person, it seems like. As a celebrity, I would say, actually, right? Obviously, I don't know her. Maybe she sucks in real life, who knows? But as a celebrity, total breath of fresh air. In 2025, she's a total breath of fresh air. She is what I wish every celebrity was like. So, you know, of course, this all goes back to the American Eagle jeans ad that the Twitter nerds had a meltdown about. That's really what happened, right? Realistically, what happened was Sydney Sweeney did a silly little commercial for American Eagle jeans, and nerds and fat girls on Twitter had a meltdown about it because fat girls don't like seeing non fat girls. They just don't. That is one of the things about the fat girls, is that they don't like seeing non-fat girls in movies, in shows, in commercials, in anything. That's really what happened. But they can't just come out and say that. So they have to disguise it as some kind of, you know, some kind of cause that makes them feel morally superior. You know, you can't just come out and say, I don't like her because she's not fat. I don't like her because she's actually pretty. You know, they got to come out and say it like, oh, she's actually doing something morally wrong, and I'll tell you why. You know, because I'm clearly morally superior. I'm the better person in this situation. So that's what it always is. It's just mental illness disguised as like honor and valor. It's ridiculous at this point. But yeah, there's this clip that that I didn't even know existed until just today. So let me get this pulled up. Again, I don't know the person who's tweeting it. I don't really follow, like, I have an anonymous Twitter account that I use just to collect news for the live show, and I don't know any of the people that I follow. I mostly follow, like, media accounts and shit, but and I don't follow this person. This is just where I found the tweet. This person says, "Sydney Sweeney is an American icon." I'm pretty much there too. I agree with that. I'm down with that. That works for me.
The criticism of the content, which was basically that maybe specifically in this political climate, like white people shouldn't joke about genetic superiority. Like that was kind of like the criticism, broadly speaking. And since you are talking about this, I just wanted to give you an opportunity to talk about that specifically.
I think that when I have an issue that I want to speak about, people will hear.
The criticism of
Perfect. Perfect. That's awesome. Dude, first of all, look at her face. You know, this is her like seething in this moment. Like, God, I cannot believe this insufferable living embodiment of the HR department is really about to bring this shit up to me right now. Like, that's what Sydney Sweeney's face is saying. Like, God, are we really doing this? Are we really going to talk about white supremacy in this interview? Unfortunately, yes, you are, Sydney Sweeney. That's exactly what's going to happen. This fucking living embodiment of an HR manager is going to ask you about white supremacy. I love the way she words this question. You know, this lady was just fishing for clips.
Content, which was basically that maybe specifically in this political climate, like white people shouldn't joke about genetic superiority.
Yeah, imagine the world we live in where somebody does an American Eagle commercial for jeans, and then some lady is going to tell you, you know, white people shouldn't joke about genetic superiority. Holy shit. Holy shit. Can't even do a fucking jeans commercial. You know, I wish there's, you know, there's probably an alternate timeline where Sydney Sweeney like popped off right here and actually got to say what she wanted to say, you know, threw all of her media training away and just said, fuck this, I'm going to unload. Who was joking about genetic superiority? It's a fucking jeans commercial, you know, and it all goes back to, you know, of course, if it was a fat girl in the commercial, if it was a Mexican gal or a black gal, you know, nobody would have had any problems with the commercial. In fact, if it was a fat chick or a Mexican chick or a black chick or an Indian chick, she could have done a whole commercial and straight up said, yeah, my genetics are the best. And nobody would have cared. You know, none of the nerds would have freaked out about that. But of course, because Sydney Sweeney is white, that's also what this all comes down to, is she's only getting attacked like this literally because she is white. I mean, far be it from me to be the white victim guy, right? Those guys are cringe too. But that is exactly what's going on here. This literally is only a situation because Sydney Sweeney is a white chick, because she's a white chick with blonde hair. That's the only reason any of this is a thing. And fat girls are still very insecure about the fact that guys happen to like skinny white chicks with blonde hair. Not just white dudes, by the way. Everybody likes skinny white chicks with blonde hair. It's just kind of like, welcome to the world. Guys across all countries of the world like skinny white chicks with blonde hair. Like, sorry, that just is one of those things. Guys also like a whole bunch of other different types of chicks. Again, it just so happens that in this commercial, it was Sydney Sweeney. But yeah, no, Sydney Sweeney is basically handling this perfectly, I think. So anyways, of course, because of this response on Twitter, again, you have all these fucking nerds and wannabe social activists and fat chicks basically coming out and saying, oh my God, she is refusing to disavow white supremacy. That's what's going on. Sydney Sweeney is refusing to disavow white supremacy. It's like, no, bro, she's just refusing to play bullshit with you guys. She's just refusing to play fucking weirdo games with you guys and waste her time with any of this shit. That's all it is. She is just refusing to run this fucking endless race with these fucking nerds. People are tired of running this race. No one's doing this shit. You know, no one's going to run this never-ending marathon of trying to prove that they're not white supremacists. Like, again, welcome to the world where you now have to go out of your way to prove that you're not a white supremacist. You know, it's completely absurd. Again, this all comes from a jeans commercial. This is one of those things where I love to say, dude, when I was in kindergarten, back in the year 2000, I used to love Dexter's Laboratory. And I used to love to sit around and think, oh, in the future, it's going to be like Dexter's Laboratory. We're going to have robots and flying cars. And I guess we are on our way to robots at this point. But, you know, we're going to have flying cars and the future is going to be so great. But really what we have is fat girls on Twitter and HR managers who have somehow weaseled their way into the media, like this interviewer lady, asking actresses about white supremacy because they did a jeans commercial for a teeny bopper clothing brand. That's actually what the future had in store for innocent little kindergarten me. I would have never believed it. I would have said, no, that's fucking crazy. Well, actually, I was in kindergarten. I would have said, what's white supremacy? I don't even know what that is. Bunch of fucking nerds. Just a bunch of fucking nerds. Yeah, Sydney Sweeney is refusing to disavow white supremacy. You know what she's doing? You know what's funny is, you know what she's actually doing is, remember that famous clip of Morgan Freeman from fucking years ago, back when people were still somewhat reasonable? That clip where Morgan Freeman tells the interviewer, you know, if you want racism to go away, we should just stop talking about it. That's what Sydney Sweeney is really doing right here. She's really just doing the reasonable take of, you know, you guys want this shit to go away. Why don't you just shut the fuck up about it? Why don't you stop pretending you're a fucking HR manager? I mean, literally, this is the HR department manager at a Target. This is, if you want to get a job at Target, you got to talk to this lady. And you have to disavow white supremacy to this lady before you accept your minimum wage cashier position at your local Target. Man, what a fucking world. Sydney Sweeney is great. Man, she's fucking great. They're really just, they're dying to drag her into any of this shit. They are dying to get their clip of her slipping up and saying something. That's what they want. Yeah, look right here. We got a tweet from somebody that, yeah, Sydney Sweeney refuses to disavow white supremacy. Just absolute retardation. Absolute insanity. Isn't it also funny how all the people who claim to be the most against white supremacy, right? All of these nerds and wannabe social activists on Twitter, all of these people who claim to be the most strongly opposed to white supremacy also happen to be the ones who consistently talk about white supremacy. The people who accuse you of being a white supremacist are the ones who constantly bring up white supremacy. You know, this interviewer asks her, you know, in this political climate, we shouldn't be joking about white supremacy. Who started this? Like, who started that? That's what I wish Sydney Sweeney could have said. That's what I wish she could have said. Who was joking about white supremacy? Who even brought that up? Oh, yeah, you guys brought that up. You guys brought up that topic, and now you want me to disavow it. You want to bring up this weirdo fucking topic and then make me disavow it. You're the one that brought it up. You're the one that talked about it. You're the one that even made these accusations. Why don't you disavow it? Since you like to talk about it so much, why don't you disavow it? Why don't you disavow white supremacy every fucking day of your life? Why don't you spend every second of your waking life, every breath you have in your body, why don't you spend the rest of your life disavowing white supremacy, since you're the one that's clearly so obsessed with the topic? Yeah, now we have these great memes of Sydney Sweeney making this face, looking at this fucking HR manager. The way Sydney Sweeney looks at annoying journalists is exactly how I look at people who eat blue cheese. Yeah, that's a pretty good take, actually. Blue cheese is one of those things like IPAs and like dark beers. It's like, you know, you don't actually like this shit. You just want to come off as classy. I just don't know what else they could do. At this point, you know, they're the media, you know, the media full of HR managers and fat girls. They're all panicking. You know, what else can we do? We've got to get her to say something. You know, they want her so badly to just say something that they can use. Catherine Stoffel, looks like it was her name. Yeah, GQ's Catherine Stoffel was so desperate to destroy the reputation of Sydney Sweeney Someone says, you can see in her body language that she knew how inferior she was sitting next to Sydney Sweeney. Yeah, absolutely. Mom says you're gay. Yeah, probably. She probably does say that. Tell mom she's a white supremacist. Tell mom she's a white supremacist and she needs to disavow it. But yeah, so now we have all these other Twitter accounts claiming that Sydney Sweeney is based. And I guess it is pretty based. I don't even know what based actually means. I always just kind of took it as it means you're cool. Just means you're cool. Mom says you're gay with the 4. Well, that one I don't believe. I believe she'd say it with the A, not the 4. They tried to catch her. They tried to catch her making comments praising Donald Trump. They tried to catch her slipping up, making comments about being a white supremacist. I also didn't know, one of our chat regulars, Fizz, sent me this. I didn't realize that they were making a live action Gundam movie that Sydney Sweeney is set to play in. That sounds like the coolest thing I've ever heard, actually. That is something that I will get into when that movie comes out. That seems like a Hollywood movie that I can actually pay some money to go see. Here on IMDb, Sydney Sweeney set to lead the live action Gundam movie. Acclaimed actor Sydney Sweeney is set to add another film adaptation to her growing CV. Sweeney joins Legendary Entertainment's upcoming Gundam movie based on the eponymous Japanese military sci-fi media franchise. Per Jeff Snyder, Sweeney is finalizing negotiations to star in the Netflix-bound Gundam live-action film directed by Sweet Tooth showrunner Jim Mickle. I think Legendary did some of the more recent Texas Chainsaw Massacre movies, either one or some, and those were obviously trash. So hearing Legendary will be producing this does not give me a lot of hope. But just the fact that you're going to put Gundam together with Sydney Sweeney is perfect for me. I'm down for that. It's also cool that she is continuously working too. You know, she's not losing work. Like I was saying last night, she actually is uncancelable. You cannot cancel somebody who is actually attractive and normal. I mean, that seems to be the impression I think most people have of her, is that she's just actually normal. She's actually a normal person. She doesn't run around talking about Nazis and white supremacists. She just does jeans commercials and does movies. It almost makes me want to see that Immaculate movie. You know, she did that horror movie a couple years ago, Immaculate, 2024, not even a couple of years ago, just 1 year ago. And I think she even produced it. Yeah, she produced it because she liked it so much. She, I would assume is a horror fan. Yeah, I guess I might need to check this movie out. I've still never seen her act. I've never seen a movie with her or a show with her. I see some people say she's a terrible actor. I do know that. I guess I wouldn't be surprised, but I'm pretty easily entertained when it comes to actors. There's not a lot of movies that I watch, except for, like, you know, super low budget 70s and 80s stuff that I watch, where of course the actors are terrible, you know, because they're just like dentists. They took a really low paycheck to act in this one movie. But when it comes to like mainstream Hollywood actors, there's not a lot of actors I can think of that I like actively am like, oh, they're fucking terrible. So I guess I wouldn't be surprised if she is a bad actor, but I don't think it would bother me too bad. Yeah, I guess maybe I should check this movie out at some point. I think it's one of those, I think it's like a supernatural. She looks like a nun the whole time. It seems like one of those kind of like those Catholic or Christian Catholic spiritual horror films. which aren't really my favorite. Those have all been really played out with all of the Conjuring movies and the Nun movies and the Annabelle movies, but just because I'm so down with this actress at this point, I might need to check that out and finally watch a movie that she stars in. And then I probably will go see that Gundam movie. I guess it could be just a straight to Netflix movie since Netflix is producing it, but yeah, I don't know what else they can do to her. They really sent out the big guns when they sent out that Target HR manager to get her to slip up and say something about being a white supremacist, but it's just not going to happen. Not going to happen. They keep trying. Great meme material though. I will be trying to make memes with that template. They even have the version where they have both of them in there. They have the Target HR department manager and Sydney Sweeney in the same picture. It's perfect. That's a great meme. Man, I mean, this picture there's every picture says 1,000 words, and I mean, there's just a million words in this picture. She's just really sitting there staring at her, like, no way are you really going to bring this up right now. No way are you really going to ask me to disavow white supremacy because I did a jeans commercial for a teeny bopper clothing brand. But that's what's going on. That is the state of the world nowadays. The only other thing I really had that I did specifically want to bring up, of course, because this one is near and dear to me, not because of the movie franchise involved, but because of the genre involved. There is some drama in Terrifier land. Everyone knows I'm not a huge Terrifier fan. I liked Terrifier 3 a lot. Terrifier 2, I hate completely, and the first Terrifier is fine. It's a fun little low-budget slasher movie that's right up my alley. So, Terrifier actress sues over back-end deal. This is Catherine Corcoran. She is the girl in the first Terrifier who got tied up by her feet naked and sawed in half by Art the Clown with a hacksaw. It is like the big kill of that movie. She alleges in a lawsuit that she reached a deal for 1% of all profits across the franchise, but that she's only been paid roughly $8,300 thus far. Somebody would have to do the math. I would assume, yeah, she should be getting paid more than that. Terrifier is huge now. It has become a huge franchise. And 1% obviously sounds small, but that franchise has made a lot of fucking money at this point. But let's see, the Terrifier franchise has spawned plenty of blood-drenched kills, but one stands above the rest. The death by sawing, butchering, that sounds terrible. In the original, where Art the Clown bisects a victim hung upside down. Since the film's 2016 release, the ultra-violent killer clown slasher has become an unlikely hit, unexpectedly breaking into the mainstream and earning millions at the box office. But Catherine Corcoran, the actress in the iconic scene, alleges she hasn't seen her cut of profits from the franchise. She filed a lawsuit on Sunday in California federal court accusing the producers of the film of breach of contract over her back-end deal for 1% of all profits. This case presents an all too common story of low-budget film producers taking advantage of a young actress through fraud, sexual harassment, and ultimately betrayal. That's where things start getting more interesting. There's more to this lawsuit than just the payment. The three Terrifier movies are one of horror's biggest modern success stories, with the low-budget films garnering around $100 million at the global box office on a combined budget of less than 2.5 million. So that's not even the math you'd have to do. Not only 1% of around $100 million, but what all was in the deal? You know what I mean? Was there like merchandise in that 1%? Was there, there was just a Terrifier attraction at Universal's Halloween nights they did or whatever at their theme parks. Like, is she supposed to get a cut of that money? Corcoran's lawsuit brings several claims for and related to breach of contract, as well as some alleging violations of laws over the distribution of sexually explicit material. Per the complaint, Corcoran wasn't told ahead of shooting that she would be fully nude in the scene in which she's killed, in violation of SAG rules, which require producers to obtain written consent from talent for such sequences. So she's claiming that they didn't tell her she was going to be naked in the movie. The lawsuit, which names Damien Leone and Dark Age Cinema, also details allegedly grueling working conditions during filming. I guess that one I could see, but if you're signing on to do a low budget movie, like as small as that movie was, I don't know. You know, again, I don't know these working conditions. I have more opinions on this I'll get to once I finish reading this. I go back and forth a lot, though. Spoiler alert. To mitigate the pooling of blood in her head while suspended by her ankles, Corcoran shot the scene in 10-second increments across 10 hours, with the platform placed underneath her at some points so she could lay horizontally. She says the doctor had told her that she suffered cranial swelling and eardrum damage as a result of being upside down. Were it not for Corcoran's willingness to take a risk on this production and receive her compensation on the back end, the series would not exist, as it could not have been made on a shoestring budget otherwise. However, when it came time to pay what she was owed, the producers chose to cheat her. So the more interesting part to me is the claims that she wasn't told she was going to be nude. Um, Honestly, that part I don't believe. I don't believe that they would have her sign a contract and not tell her that she was going to be nude in the movie, and then here comes shooting day and they're just like, hey, surprise, you got to get naked. And even at that point she could say no. So here's where I start going back and forth when it comes to the money. I don't know, maybe they haven't paid her as much as she's owed, maybe they have, who knows. I personally don't believe that they didn't tell her she was going to be naked in the movie, especially, I mean, I don't know Damien Leone, but just like in interviews and whatnot, it doesn't seem like he'd be that kind of guy who's receiving in the back end. Well, I guess this girl's not receiving in the back end. I guess that's what's actually going on, and she wants to be receiving in the back end. You know, the articles talk about, they really kind of talk about sexual harassment in general, and I wonder what else. Is it just the part where she apparently wasn't told she was going to be naked? Or, you know, were people weird to her on set? Where I get a little weird about this is that this movie was released in 2016. It's been almost 10 years since this movie was released. Why is she just now suing them? If it's payment, I could understand, you know, she's waited 10 years to get paid and they still haven't paid her, so then now she says, "Okay, I'm gonna sue you guys." But when it comes to the sexual harassment type stuff and the nudity, why are you waiting 10 years to sue them? You know, why wouldn't you sue them as soon as the movie came out? I've also seen other articles that claim that she said she was told they weren't gonna be releasing the movie with the nude scenes of her or something along those lines. You know, wouldn't you see the movie and immediately sue them once you see that they used the footage of you naked? That's where I get a little iffy about this. Why 10 years? Why have you waited 10 years to sue these people for this? You know, grueling working conditions. Again, I don't know if she was expecting a big Hollywood production. I mean, obviously she wasn't. She knew this was a low budget movie going into it. They kind of have to tell you that. So I don't want to sound cold and say, you know, she's lying or she's making shit up or she's just looking for a big payday. But I do wonder, you know, why wait 10 years to sue them for this alleged sexual harassment and this alleged, you know, exploitation? I mean, wouldn't you handle that a lot sooner? Somebody else, Terraflix, tweeted it out and said, In a bombshell lawsuit filed Sunday in California federal court, Catherine Corcoran, star of the 2016 indie horror hit Terrifier, accuses director Damien Leone and producers of scamming her with bogus contracts, workplace harassment. That's kind of a whole different thing, too. And unauthorized use of explicit footage. So that's what I'm saying. They used unauthorized nude footage of you. Why don't you sue them as soon as you see it in the movie when it was released in 2016? Why do you wait 10 years? The complaint paints a grim picture of indie filmmakers preying on a budding talent through deceit and neglect. Named defendants include Dark Age Cinema, Fuzz on the Lens Productions, producer Phil Falcone, Damien Leone, and his Art the Clown outfit. It lodges 7 counts, it lodges 7 counts from explicit content violations, 2 broken promises, and fraud. Damien Leone's team hasn't responded to requests for comment. Catherine Corcoran gained infamy for her character's brutal demise, suspended, inverted, and bare-chested as the killer, Art the Clown, butchers her. The suit details grueling 10-plus hour shoots in sub-zero cold, leaving her battered. She signed on for peanuts up front, banking on 1% of Terrifier's earnings, sequels, merch, and IP deals. Okay, so she's getting 1% of, anything the sequels do, merchandise too, and intellectual property deals. With 2 follow-ups raking in over $105 million worldwide, plus DVDs and fan festivals, royalties should have flowed. Damien Leone even penned a note for 1% merch cuts, yet payments fizzled. Just $1,816 by July of 2024. That's a different number than the one I just read in this article. Oh, and then it says no back pay and merch scraps at 8,000. That's around the number, I think. When pressed, Falcone dodged records. Damien Leone punted to him. Worse, no SAG-mandated written nod for nudity. She demanded underwear, but went topless anyway. So apparently she demands to at least have underwear on the set, but then says she'll go topless anyways. Okay, so if she agreed to do the scene topless, I mean, what is the, what's the deal? In another tweet from A Shop magazine, it says the lawsuit claims that the producers never obtained Corcoran's informed written consent to film the nude death scene, as was required by the Screen Actors Guild. To me, that sounds like she gave them verbal consent, right? I mean, obviously, she willingly took her clothes off and shot the scene in the movie. She talks about working 10-hour days in the nude. So obviously she gives verbal consent and does that. And it sounds like she probably just recently learned that there's a SAG rule that requires written consent, and now she's trying to bank on that. So what I would honestly imagine is, and again, my overall take is we're going to have to wait and find out, right? We jump to conclusions when it comes to these lawsuits and accusations. So my real overall take is we got to wait and find out. But just based off of this, it sounds like she voluntarily and willingly shot these nude scenes in this movie. Now, fast forward 10 years, and she decides she's going to sue them for lack of payment. And I bet you while gearing up for that lawsuit, she learned about this rule in the Screen Actors Guild where producers and the directors and everybody, they need to get written consent before shooting nude scenes. So now she's throwing that into the lawsuit to kind of add a little bit more to it. That's what that sounds like to me. I don't know. Because like I said, if you didn't want to do the nude scenes, you wouldn't have done them. You would have never budged on it. You would have never let them turn a camera on while you were naked. Right? it makes no sense to say like, okay, sure, I'll shoot the nude scenes, but don't use the footage in the movie. Why would you do that? And then if that did happen, she would have sued them back in 2016 as soon as she saw the released movie and saw that they used the nude scenes. That's what would have happened. So I think what happened is she decided to sue them for lack of proper payment, and then while looking for more to throw into the lawsuit, maybe on the advice of her lawyers, maybe her lawyer said you should get some more to throw in here. And so I think she probably recently learned about this SAG rule and it was like, "Oh yeah, I never did sign a contract saying that I would shoot naked." Which is crazy. That's supposed to be in a contract, I'm pretty sure. If you're gonna do nude scenes in a movie, most actors have, like, their own kind of, set of rules that comes with them in their contract. Like, a lot of actresses will do nudity or won't do nudity, and that's always built into their contract. So that would be surprising if Damien Leone never wrote that there's gonna be nudity in the contract. I guess you could say he was so small time at the time, him and his co-producers. It was so small, they were so low budget, they really had no idea what they were doing, so they didn't realize that they had to write nudity into the contract. They probably just thought they could just do it all verbally. It's all good to go. They probably thought they were all friends, nobody's gonna agree to do this and then turn around and sue us for it, but here we are. So the cynical part of me thinks it sounds like she's looking for money. That's mostly what it is. She's just looking for more money. And she's just throwing in this nudity stuff to kind of bolster her position. But of course, the logical and reasonable side of me, again, of course, says, we gotta wait. We gotta wait and hold out, wait for the actual trial, wait for more news. Because that's a big problem nowadays. All these lawsuits and accusations, people take sides immediately. People are immediately taking her side. If you go on Twitter and look at this stuff there, some people are talking about, they're already gonna, not watch the franchise anymore. They're already looking bad, thinking badly about Damien Leone. It's like, dude, literally for all we know, this girl is lying about everything and is just looking for more money. I'm not saying that's the case. I'm just saying, for all we know, it's either that or for all we know, Damien Leone is a total fucking creepy pervert weirdo who takes advantage of people. You know, you never know. You got to wait and find out. But nowadays, the damage is already done. That's the worst part. Nowadays, if you Google Damien Leone, you're going to see this lawsuit in the Google results, and people are going to make up their minds already. Like, that's just seeing that in the Google results that there's a lawsuit is going to paint people's sleaze TV feminism is cancer. I think modern day feminism, I think it does more harm than good for sure. Like this 2025 version, this believe all women. Dude, don't believe all of anybody. Don't believe all men, women. Don't believe all dogs. Like I hate that idea. Just believe all of one group of people. Oh, bro, there are liars in every group of people. You know, believe honest women. Yeah. Believe honest men. Yeah, for sure. Believe honest. Yeah, for sure. But this kind of modern day, and of course, that's already kind of getting painted into the conversation too, because she is a girl. She is a female actor. She is an actress. People are like, "Oh my god, they took advantage of her. They this or that." And like I said, that could be true. Could be totally true. We could go to this trial could happen and it could turn out that Damien Leone is a total fucking creepy weirdo who exploits people and takes advantage of people and he's a horrible person. That could totally be true. I just can't imagine that being true as of right now. Like I said, the cynical side of me thinks she's looking for a payday and she's just trying to throw as much weight into the lawsuit as possible. I would hope that I am incorrect about that, though. I would hope that she is, being fully honest and all this. It just makes no sense to me to wait 10 years, For one, it makes no sense to shoot the nude scene, right? She talks about working 10-hour days naked. You know, And then, so why would you do that if you didn't want the nude footage being used, right? You wouldn't do that. You wouldn't shoot the nude scenes, but say, hey, by the way, don't use that footage. I know we just did 4 10-hour days of shooting with me naked, but don't use that footage, right? That wouldn't happen. You wouldn't do that. So I think it sounds like she just learned about this rule and she was like, oh yeah, by the way, I never did sign a contract with nudity in it. That's not right. I'm going to throw that in there too. Wonder how much she should be getting paid though. That would suck. That would suck. I mean, that probably happens to a lot of people. People do these really small, low budget movies, and then the movies take off. The franchise becomes a big, successful franchise, and you're like, damn, I did that one movie for like $500. And now the franchise is worth, 200 million fucking dollars. I could have got a lot more out of that. To me, that's kind of what it sounds like is going on. But like I said, who knows? Maybe they are ripping her off. She says she got paid $8,000. That does sound a little ridiculous. I don't know what. I mean, one person. I mean, just a very, very generic kind of number. I guess 1% of 100 million is 100,000. Right? I could be totally wrong about that. I'm terrible at math. 1% of 100 million is 100,000. I don't know. Maybe it's a million. Am I literally fucking retarded? Is 1% of 100 million $1 million? Whatever it is. Yeah, if she's only gotten paid $8,000, that would be ridiculous, and she obviously deserves to get paid a lot more. But it's the nudity stuff and the sexual harassment claims and that stuff is where it starts getting a little weird to me. You know, it's like go after your money for sure, but don't. You shot these scenes. You just did. You shot these scenes. You gave your consent by taking off your clothes, getting into position for the scene, and having them shoot the scenes and working 10-hour days while naked. To go back and then say, "Oh, well, I never wrote down the consent." It sounds like you didn't care about that in the first place, and you didn't care about it for 10 years. But it sounds like you recently learned about this little rule in the Screen Actors Guild rule book, and now you're trying to use that to your advantage, which to me that seems a little, I don't really like that, but you know, rules are rules. That is one thing. Rules are rules, and if they didn't, get a signed contract with the nudity clause in it, then yeah, they should have done that. I would assume they'll say in their defense, like I said, they'll probably say, we had no idea what we were doing. We never made a fucking, I mean, Damien Leone had made some movies before that, but of course, nothing big or Hollywood or anything even close to that. So, but I would assume that's what he'll say. I didn't know. I didn't know that I had to get her to write it down. I thought her getting naked and getting in position and shooting the scene was, obviously enough consent for us to be good. Oh yeah, I just heard today, all the Lana Rhoades stuff is kind of popping back up. How Lana Rhoades was in the porn industry for like 8 months at the age of 19 and shot over 400 scenes, which by the way is fucking crazy. 400 scenes in 8 months is insane. I think those are the numbers that I heard. But nowadays she talks all about how she was groomed. She was taken advantage of. She did this podcast appearance where she was like, she said porn is the porn business is, they exploit you because she says you have to have sex with men that you aren't even attracted to, that you would never have sex with in the first place. It's like, wait, what? No, you don't have to have sex with anybody. You don't have to sign up to do porn. That's like, what are you talking about? That's like if I got a job at Walmart And then my boss told me to go scrub the toilets. I was like, yeah, they made me scrub the toilets when I never would have touched something that dirty. Well, you didn't have to get the job at fucking Walmart in the first place. What are you talking about? But that is definitely a big trend with the porn industry for sure. I mean, Mia Khalifa is like the king of that, or I guess the queen of that, whatever. Yeah, Lana Rhoades does still have the OnlyFans. She advocates for OnlyFans. She says, it's funny, she basically said she believes the porn industry should be illegal. And then in like a later spot in the podcast, she says, but if you want to do porn, you should do OnlyFans because then you're in charge. It's like, oh, so you don't think porn should be illegal? You just want to be in charge of the porn. That's what she wants. She just wants girls to be their own bosses in the porn industry, which is fine. You can advocate for that, but don't come out and talk about porn like it's this immoral thing, but you have an OnlyFans. Yeah, Lana Rhoades, she's called for, she wants all of her scenes to be taken off the internet, which is just never going to happen. Even if all the companies that owned her videos did take them off of their websites, people are going to post them and share them, and people have downloaded files, and it's never going to go away. It's just funny that, she does that. She talks about how she doesn't like all these things that were done to her. And it's like, you mean things that you did? You can literally see it. I forget what podcast it is. Let's see. Dude, she's got 1 million subscribers on her YouTube channel. Yeah, she just did a podcast appearance 4 days ago on a channel called Jeff FM. I don't know. She's done a bunch of appearances, I guess. It was just today, that Pop Culture Crisis show that I watched, they talked about it.
To the whole porn industry or sex working industry. And so I kind of wanted to kind of dive in with you a little bit as well, even after hearing those first couple, schedule per se.
So most girls getting into the industry at the time when I was in the industry, they had agents. It was just the thing that everyone did. And so the first agent that I had, he was very like, okay, you're going to do this, you're going to do this, you have shoots for these people. The industry is very, in a way, the girls are disposable, which you're told that when you come into the industry, like you're disposable. Our relationship yeah, they tell you that. And they say our relationship with the producers is more important. So the agent's goal is to get you to do as much as.
Why are they saying that like it's yeah, actors are also disposable in Hollywood. And I'm sure, by the way, the agent didn't say the word to her. I'm sure her agent did not just say, hey, you're disposable trash, by the way. I'm sure the agent just told her, we all have jobs. And whether you're here or not, we all continue to do our jobs, and other people will fill the role if you're not here. I'm sure it was something more along those lines. I'm sure nobody told her that she was disposable, like the way she's trying to say it.
You can for as cheap as you can.
I'm also, very upset right now.
And also,
yeah, of course you are. You look like you're fucking 200 pounds.
And for as cheap as you can.
I'm also, very upset right now.
And also to be very, very pliable. So yes, you can say, oh, I don't want to do this, or, you can give demands like that, but you're then told that you're being bad. You're not going to be booked anymore because you're a diva. Say, like you say, no, I don't want cum on my face. Could you please do it somewhere else? Then you would get reprimanded and told that you probably wouldn't be booked again because that's what they want.
Were
So
you living in a
yes,
house with other girls at the time, or were you living on your own with your husband?
no. So me and my husband had broken up at
She's got a husband. Well, it sounds like she was about to say they were broken up, but
this point, gone on a separation, and my first agent flew me to him and had me stay in his apartment in the room across from his, and I shared a bed with another girl. And then after that, I think I stayed there for a few months, and then he actually wouldn't let me move far away from him. He said, you have to stay in Woodland Hills, which is the area where most of the porn is shot, and had me get an apartment in the same building as him so he could watch what I was doing. And he also did not want me to
wait, so he could watch what you were doing, or so you just lived close because you are in the business together? Like, I don't believe that her agent is like spying on her. He probably just said, hey, you just moved into town where your job is. Let's just go ahead and move you into my building because it's easy. We live next door. We work together. We can go to shoots together. You know, I doubt this guy like had so he could watch what she was fucking doing. Come on.
have boyfriends, date, or do anything that wasn't work related.
He didn't want you to have boyfriends. He's probably looking out for the dudes. He's probably looking out for the guys in town. Like, hey, don't date this girl. She's doing fucking porn.
So it was very much controlled.
Yeah. And I think at that age as well, when you're wanting to sort of climb the ranks because you still have this idea of, you know, if I get to a specific place, I'm going to get into, you know, the girls next door, I'm going to get into that sort of arena of things. You're probably fearful, I'm assuming, you know, to speak up for yourself in an aspect. I mean, I know, like I said, I'm very naive to all this, so excuse me if I say the wrong thing, but I just want to say, you know, I think many people.
All right, you know what? I don't even care about Lawn and Red.
Check out Hot Shots.
We all know the stories. We all know the stories. These porn stars do these. They build these porn careers and they act like they were completely taken advantage of. Actual Justice Warrior. I've seen this channel. I think this is a guy who talks about politics, but he talked about the Sydney Sweeney thing, so I'm going to jump back into that. I literally just saw this video and figured, hey, since this is a Sydney Sweeney video, let's check this out.
You're never tempted to just like
God, just yeah, this is the manager at the HR department at a Target. Seriously, and I've worked for Target. Like, I know this. This is, if you want a job at Target, this is the lady you have to talk to. She's gonna make sure that you disavow white supremacy, so you can be a cashier for minimum wage.
like open your notes app and say, this is what I really think, and this is who I am, and this is what's going on in my life, and like stop guessing and projecting.
I mean, I'll vent to my girlfriends, but
Okay.
other than that, no.
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 Okay. That's honestly really impressive. Like,
I know who I am.
right.
I know what I value. I know that I'm a kind person. I know
Mhm.
that I love a lot. And I know that I'm just excited to see what happens next. And so I don't really let other people define who I am.
I'm happy to hear that. I have a lot of secondhand concern for you lately. We're sort of talking around this.
What a snake. What an absolute snake this lady is to portray that. Oh, I'm concerned for you. I'm so happy to hear that's how you're living. And now she's about to try and trick her into making comments about white supremacy. Like, that's an actual snake move. You know, trying to, basically trying to warm her up. By the way, I love this frame that I paused it on. This is exactly how this snake lady should be remembered. The way she's clearly trying to warm her up and play friends with her, trying to be buddy with her, and now is about to just shoot for the fucking back and try to get her to make comments about white supremacy and try to trip her up and look for this viral clip so people can attack Sydney Sweeney on Twitter, so all these fat girls and nerds can go after her. That's snake shit.
this American Eagle ad right now, and maybe we should just talk about it. So, were you surprised by the reaction?
So one of the reasons why the left wing ends up winning in the long term in terms of culture wars is due to the fact that they have a commitment to longevity in terms of the fight. Even if they're losing something right off the jump, even if they're losing something for a couple of years, over time they attempt to wear you down to enforce compliance against you and essentially to relentlessly punish any kind of actor that they perceive to be a bad actor for stepping out even slightly. A perfect example of this is Chick-fil-A. You guys might remember over a decade ago during the Obama administration, it came out that the founders of Chick-fil-A and the owners of Chick-fil-A were actually Christians. Now everybody knew.
I feel like I don't remember the Chick-fil-A thing. I think it's funny that Chick-fil-A itself, though. Chick-fil-A is invincible. They are also uncancelable just because it's Chick-fil-A and they're good.
Knew this already because Chick-fil-A was actually not open on Sundays, but they were actually donating to family-oriented organizations, donating money to campaigns against gay marriage, and the left decided in the 2010s that this absolutely was unacceptable, so they launched a boycott against the company.
Okay, that part I remember. I do remember the boycott because of their, the stuff he just said. I remember that part. I want to skip to the Sydney Sweeney stuff. I don't want to skip any good parts here.
Against the onslaught of attacks. So this is what we're going to talk about today. How this interview that's supposed to be about promoting a Sydney Sweeney film, promoting the next season of Euphoria, ultimately ended up turning into this crazy looking old lady complaining about Sydney Sweeney's jeans commercial, something that a lot of people thought was settled already, something that was over and done with, but in reality,
yeah, it definitely was over and done with. We moved on from it, but of course, now that we got an HR manager who's in media, she's gonna come out here and take her shot.
in actuality, it's something that the left will never let go. But before we get into that, I want to thank everybody for supporting my jeans purchases over at actualjusticewarrior.com/join.
Give me the money.
Yeah, I love this guy's channel because of the Anna Kasparian thing. This is great.
Me the money, okay?
Genes are passed down from parents to offspring, often determining traits like hair color, personality, and even eye color. My genes are blue.
Sydney Sweeney.
Airwick is
It's the greatest commercial of all time. Coincidentally, right before we get an ad. The biggest downfall of my channel when I want to watch stuff on YouTube is the fact that I do not have premium, but what are you going to do?
So if you guys will remember, that was one among many of the ads that Sydney Sweeney's American Eagle campaign ended up featuring it, and they all basically concluded with the pun of Sydney Sweeney has great genes, even though they're talking about the jeans that they're selling, Jeans, but it obviously implies that they're saying Genes, and the reason they were doing this is not because they were trying to signal to the white supremacists out there, the evil white racists that are hiding under every rock. It's because Sydney Sweeney is an attractive woman. She is known for certain assets, and among those assets are her stunning personality and obviously her acting ability, or whatever we're even talking about. So obviously that ended up triggering a bunch of people on the left, because for years in this country,
It ended up triggering a bunch of dogs. I got to keep being honest about that. It ended up triggering a bunch of dogs. Nobody who complained about the Sydney Sweeney commercial was attractive. There were no attractive girls on Twitter crying about Sydney Sweeney and her jeans commercial. It was all a bunch of dogs. It was all a bunch of fat girls. It was a bunch of girls with shaved heads. It was a bunch of girls with Joker green hair. It was all the girls who are just clearly insecure about the way they look. And instead of going to the gym, and instead of eating less cheesecake, they want everybody else to just not go to the gym and eat more cheesecake. When in reality, they could just work on themselves. That's the best part, is all these girls that complain about this shit. And this goes both ways, too. This goes for guys, too. I don't see any guys crying about Jason Momoa, though. I don't see that, but I'm sure they're out there. You guys could just eat less and go to the gym. But instead what they want is they just want to see fat girls in commercials. so they don't have to deal with the fact that there are pretty girls who exist, and it is still those pretty girls who run the world.
They have been pushing the idea that white women being viewed as attractive, attractive women being viewed as attractive, is actually evil white supremacist beauty standards, and this is one of the reasons why you've seen in recent years them pushing obese models and pushing brands like Victoria's Secret to embrace larger and larger models. And
Yeah, that's what they're mad about. They're mad that after years of trying to convince everybody that, hey, it's actually fat girls who are attractive. Hey, for years, you thought skinny girls with blonde hair were hot, but what's actually hot is fat girls. And, whatever, girls with shaved heads and shit. But the Sydney Sweeney phenomenon has kind of showed everybody, no, that's not true, actually. No matter how much you try to convince people that girls with green hair are attractive, that's actually still not true. And I think people got tired of pretending. I mean, that's kind of what we're coming up against at this point. People are tired of pretending. People are tired of doing all this shit. Even Sydney Sweeney is tired of, she's tired of being asked about white supremacy in interviews about her movies and her shows. And this is the result of it. People just eventually just say, you know what, fuck it, dude. I don't care. Yeah, the skinny chick with the blonde hair and the big tits, she's hot. That's actually what I'm into, okay? Sorry, I'm not into fat girls, okay? I like Sydney Sweeney. People are kind of throwing their hands up and just saying, all right, dude, we're done with this.
And if you guys will recall, if you guys will remember, they actually ended up suspending the Victoria's Secret fashion show, and they did all sorts of other things in order to promote this body positivity movement. But in reality, what that ultimately ended up doing was tanking a bunch of different brands, because rather than having models that look like your everyday people, so people can see themselves represented as models, what actually ended up happening is that brands that were meant to be sexy, that were meant to be aspirational, all of a sudden became the brands for fat girls. So it wasn't, oh, Victoria's Secret is made for me, I'm a much larger woman. All of a sudden, Victoria's Secret was the fat girl brand, rather than, oh, that model is super sexy, and if I wear that lingerie or that bra or that panty combo, then I will also feel that way. Again, they lost that aspirational goal. So considering the failure of all those different various campaigns that we've talked about multiple times on this channel, Sydney Sweeney being chosen as the model for American Eagle jeans just made sense, because again, people were trying to go back to an aspirational view. Again, Sydney.
Yeah, we want Carl's Jr. commercials with hot chicks again. I mean, I know I do. I want to see hot chicks sitting on top of cars eating greasy cheeseburgers. It's not too much to ask for. We had it before. Those were always the best commercials. We had them before. It's possible.
Sweeney's hot, Sydney Sweeney's attractive, so people would feel like, okay, if I bought those jeans, those are the jeans that attractive people wear, so I will feel more attractive if I get said jeans, rather than, again, obese people making you feel like those clothes are for fat people. So it's really all that simple. It was not meant to be a racial signal or anything of the sort. However, the left's open hatred for white people, the fact that they don't like people with light hair and blue eyes, obviously made it about that, and they've been attacking Sydney Sweeney ever since, and people on the right have
when he talks about it's driven by hatred for white people, like I said, far be it from me to be the white victim guy. Obviously that is a thing that goes on. We there is a lot of it's totally fine to hate on white people nowadays. That is obviously a thing. But the Sydney Sweeney thing in particular, I don't even necessarily think most of it was, oh, it's because she's white. I think it was just because she's pretty. I really think it was just, this was the biggest sign of girls are insecure nowadays. It was not like the mask slipped off. I guess maybe you could say that, but it was really just this huge overall showing that, hey, all these women are incredibly insecure and have meltdowns when they see actually attractive people. Now, I will say, obviously, it is true that if it was Beyonce in the commercial, none of these people would have complained about it. If it was Rihanna in the commercial, You know, if it was Doja Cat in the commercial, this would have never happened. So maybe Sean is onto something and I'm wrong. Shit, piss damn white people ruin everything. Yeah, white people ruin everything. Myself as a white person, I'm allowed to say that. Realistically, in 2025, everybody's allowed to say that, unfortunately. But yeah, those damn white people. But yeah, no, Sean is probably more correct than I am. I think a lot of it was driven by just overall female insecurity. Like I said, these fat girls that could just go to the gym, you know, instead of them going to the gym, they want everyone else to be fat. But then, you know, like I said, if it was Beyonce in the commercial, nobody would have had a problem with it. So Sean is probably more right than I am. Although I will say I do still believe I'm correct. I think more so than it even being a race thing, it was just a female insecurity thing. And they use race as kind of the cover, right? Like it's just mental instability, but they have to disguise it as something else because they can't just come out and say, you know, oh, we're insecure. They have to come out and say, no, there's actually a moral reason why I don't like this. Total laziness. Yeah, for sure. My thing with fat people, you know, I make fun of fat people all day, but you show me a fat person who's going to the gym and I'll stop making fun of them immediately. You know, it's the fact that you've got these fat people and they don't even try. You know, you show me a fat person who walks half a mile every night and I stop making fun of him immediately because I say, right on, you're trying, right? You're trying, you're making an attempt. You are trying to fix your situation. It's the fat people that just want to sit around and do nothing and then complain on Twitter about other people being attractive.
I've been defending her as this champion of right-wing values.
I hope this Sean, actual Justice Warrior, I don't know if this guy is gonna like copyright my shit for playing his video. I would hope not. If he does see this, Sean, to you directly, you can see I am not subscribed to your channel, but I do watch some of your stuff, and you are cool. Please don't copyright me. You are huge on YouTube. Please come on my channel sometime, just because you're huge. I would love to have you on.
Even though, again, in other contexts, people on the right would be against over-sexualization, but this is where the left has basically moved the culture, in my opinion. Essentially, they have tried to tell us for so long that ugly is beautiful.
That is kind of the funny thing that he just mentioned, too, was that 20 years ago, it would be left-wingers who love this commercial, and it would be right-wingers who claim that Sydney Sweeney is way too sexual, and she is perverting the kids, and she's showing off her tits way too much. But the culture has gotten so fucked up that now the right-wingers are down with Sydney Sweeney. And it's you know, it's completely switched. Ship is no, I don't think he would either. He seems like a, you know, from what I've seen, he seems like a chill dude. But there are people, I've had it happen to me before. Back when I had like 120 subscribers even, I played a clip of somebody's YouTube video. And it was just they were shooting a show. They shot a Jane's Addiction show, and I played a clip of it, and the guy copyrighted my video. I had to take it down. So I know it does happen, but you know, I don't assume it would in this case.
That it is now becoming a right-wing position to say, no, attractive people are attractive.
Build a website you love.
God damn. Just exposing how broke I am on the internet.
I did a Gene ad. I mean, the reaction definitely was a surprise, but it was, I love jeans. All I wear are jeans. I'm literally in jeans and a t-shirt like every day of my life.
Jeans are uncontroversial. Jeans are awesome.
Yeah, I like your jeans.
God, what a fucking hag this fucking woman is. What an absolute fucking hag. Jeans are uncontroversial. Who gives a fuck? Look at this absolute fucking witch. God, I can't believe that part at the beginning of the video, trying to act like she's all buddy-buddy with her. Oh, I'm so relieved. I'm so happy for you. This is an absolute fucking snake. This absolute snake witch right here. This fucking hag. This wannabe HR department manager. Trying to act like she's all buddy-buddy with her. Shit, piss. So it's funny. I did see there was a TikToker when the jeans commercial first came out. There was a TikToker who tried to say, um, he was saying that, you know, it's not necessarily because Sydney Sweeney was white, but what they could have done in the commercial was they could have had Sydney Sweeney, and they also could have had like a black girl and an obese girl and a transgender girl. And basically what he was saying is they have a problem with the spotlight being only on a white person, right? He wanted to see more people in the commercial. So it's kind of funny that, you know, like you are saying, now they have to have every other kind of couple or whatever kind of person. Probably nightmares after that night. Yeah, no, Sydney Sweeney probably had fucking nightmares after looking at this fucking face right here.
I mean, the reaction definitely was a surprise, but it was, I love jeans. All I wear are jeans. I'm literally in jeans and a t-shirt like every day.
Starts off with her saying, "Oh, are you surprised by the reaction? Are you shocked and horrified by the reaction that people had?" You know, people like her, the interviewer, that were probably retweeting all these anti-Sydney Sweeney posts. And Sydney responds by saying, "I did a jean ad. Like, that's it. It should have been that simple." And yeah, she was surprised by the reaction, but obviously we understand where this conversation is going. She's basically going to ask Sydney Sweeney, without saying those exact words, to basically disavow everybody that supported her, including the evil Orange Man, because Orange Man bad, white people bad, and you need to apologize for being an attractive woman that people find attractive while also being a white person.
And the president tweeted about the jeans ad, or Truth Social about the jeans ad, and that just seems to me like a very crazy moment for anyone, and I wondered what that was like.
It was surreal.
It was surreal.
Mm-hmm.
And it would be totally human. I would probably feel like thankful that somebody had my back in public, you know, and conveniently some very powerful people had my back in public. And I wondered if
nobody had her back in public. What is she talking about? Donald Trump's response to the commercial was not even really a response. Somebody told her, he didn't even talk about the commercial. Donald Trump did not see the commercial. Somebody came up to him. This was right after that commercial came out. And they basically outed Sydney Sweeney's voter registration, which is crazy because that would never happen to any other celebrity that has the right opinions. You never see, right after the jeans ad, it came out on like TMZ and Pop Crave and Pop Base that somebody went and found the public information. I guess they found Sydney Sweeney's voter registration, and they found that she is currently registered as a Republican, which, by the way, doesn't mean she is a Trumper. There are plenty of Republicans who don't like Donald Trump. But after the jeans ad, they outed her voter registration, which I guess, yeah, sure, it's public information. I guess you can find it, but to me, that's still not cool. That does not happen to people that have the right opinions, like I said. So after that happened, some interviewer asked Donald Trump, they said, "Oh, news came out today that Sydney Sweeney is a Republican. What do you think about that?" And all Donald Trump said was, "Oh, she's a Republican. That means I like her and I like her commercial." Literally, that's all he said. He didn't say anything about, you know, the actual commercial itself. He probably just saw a tweet about her being in a controversial commercial, and then some interviewer told him she's a Republican. And you know how Trump is. If somebody likes him, he likes them. You know, he does that all the time. That's all that happened. Nobody had her back. No, I mean, dude, Doja Cat made fun of her. Like, other celebrities came out and made fun of her. Like, posted videos of themselves making fun of her. Nobody had her fucking back. This is how, like, ridiculous celebrity culture is now. Nobody came out and defended her. So for this, again, this snaky interviewer to be like, "Yeah, it's really cool that somebody had your back." First of all, fuck this interviewer, because you know this interviewer fucking hates Donald Trump. You know this interviewer was seething at the fact that she even has to interview Sydney Sweeney, or she's excited because she's looking to get her clickbait moment. You know, again, I still can't believe that she really tried to play all buddy up with her in the beginning of this.
if you felt that way.
Mm,
Now the interviewer is asking her, You know, did you like that Donald Trump had your back? Which again, he didn't. This lady is literally just trying to get her to trip up over and over again. Oh, what do you think about the commercial? What do you think about the outrage to your commercial? What do you think about Donald Trump being your friend? Fuck this lady.
I don't think that it's not that that feeling I didn't have that feeling, but I wasn't thinking of it like that,
Yeah, because that wasn't the fucking case.
like of any of it. I kind of just put my phone away. I was filming every day. I'm filming Euphoria, so I'm working like 16-hour days.
Yeah, class act. Again, Sydney Sweeney rules. I'm here to talk about acting. I'm an actor. I'm here to talk about, I've been filming a show. I've been filming movies. That's what I'm here to talk about.
And I don't really bring my phone on set, so I work and then I go home and I go to sleep.
So the next question right here from this GQ lady is to bring up the evil orange man, backing her up and backing up her ad. And I will just point out for everybody out there in the audience that the Trump response to the Sydney Sweeney
Awesome. Sean's going to say exactly what I said. I feel on top of my game.
controversy was legitimately one of the funniest Trump moments that we've had in recent years, where somebody said, hey, Sydney Sweeney is a registered Republican, and Trump, being the most transactional man on the planet, said, oh, well, if she's a Republican, then I love her ad.
Sydney Sweeney could not speak in that she was a registered Republican. Any thoughts on that?
That who was?
Sydney Sweeney, she's like a very hot actress right now.
She's a registered Republican?
Yes.
Oh, now I love her ad. Is that right? Is Sydney Sweeney? You'd be surprised at how many people are Republicans. That's what I wouldn't have known, but I'm glad you told me that. If Sydney Sweeney is a registered Republican, I think her ad is fantastic. Okay, thank you very much, everybody.
But again,
Yeah, that is hardly like having her back, the way that the interviewer tried to portray it. Like again, trying to put her on the same team as Donald Trump. Fizz, I appreciate the obligatory watch and like, as always. She's got that crazy lefty look. Yeah, they all fucking do nowadays.
and notice how this GQ woman is framing it. She's like, oh, wow, it's totally understandable that you have one of the most powerful people and all these powerful people defending you. I mean, isn't that amazing? I could understand that you would accept aid from the evil orange man, but obviously the implication is that Sydney Sweeney bad, and the fact that bad people ended up defending her.
Yeah, she's trying to put her and Trump on the same team so that people on Twitter can throw another outrage party and say, oh my God, Sydney Sweeney likes Donald Trump. Again, Sydney Sweeney being a Republican does not mean she likes Trump. There are plenty of Republicans that do not like Donald Trump. But even if he doesn't know she is. Yeah, no, I wouldn't either. I think he does, because he knew that she had an ad. Like when he said, I like her ad. Like he was aware that she did some kind of commercial that was controversial. But that's really all I think he knew, because like I said, he didn't say anything about the ad in specific. Yeah, exactly. He just heard those, those few little key points and commented on it, and then went back to being the fucking president because he's got shit to do.
Also makes her even worse by proxy, and of course she's pushing her to disavow this. And Sydney Sweeney, to her credit, doesn't apologize. She's like, I did a Gene ad, and she's like, what? Like, I'm not really paying attention to all this internet stuff. I'm actually working, I'm doing a job, and again, I did a Jeans commercial.
You've made a really good case for...
Some people aren't made for...
Man, again, just exposing how broke I am. I cannot afford YouTube Premium.
Keeping your thoughts and your life separate from that work. But the risk is that, there's a chance that somebody will get some idea about what you think about certain issues and feel like...
Again, this is an interview to talk about Sydney Sweeney's job as an actor, movies and TV shows, and this lady is still talking about this shit. It's just a crazy celebrity culture we have nowadays.
I don't want to see Christy because of that. Like, do you worry about that?
No. If somebody is closed off because of something they read online to a powerful story like Christy, then I hope something else can open their eyes to being open to art and being open to learning and I'm not gonna be affected by that.
So
Shit piss. Do you know anything about ad blockers? Everyone's always said get ad blockers. I don't know anything about that stuff. I'm like, I would go find an ad blocker online and I would download a virus on accident. That's the type of mental capacity we're talking about here. But I would like a good ad blocker.
again, this is the way that the left enforces ideological subjugation of people like Sydney Sweeney. They say, oh, well, you're promoting this movie. That is ostensibly the purpose of this entire interview. But, like, don't you feel like the fact that you did this ad and then there's a reaction and you didn't immediately disavow yourself and apologize and come groveling to these people that hate you for being attractive, hate you based on the color of your skin, hate you based on the fact that you are both an attractive person and a white person? Don't you think it's really sad that some people will boycott your movie? Again, she's subtly putting it out there that somehow her movie is deserving of being boycotted because people don't understand that good jeans for a hot woman while selling jeans is a basic pun and not a secret Nazi dog whistle or anything absurd like that. And Sydney ends up responding by saying, well, if you're closed off based on internet comments, then I hope something else will change your mind, because again, she's trying to promote the movie, but simultaneously she is refusing to back down, refusing to apologize in a very polite and smiley way that, again, actually exposes more about the interviewer than it does about her.
Yeah. You've come here like really willing to talk about this whole discourse that doesn't have that much to do with you, and I'm grateful for that. Is there something that you want to say about the ad itself? The Sydney Sweeney has great genes. Do you have...
The ad spoke for itself.
You think the ad spoke for itself? Okay.
Yeah.
And the criticism of the content, which was basically that maybe specifically in this political climate, like...
I like how long this... I mean, I know I'm watching a 16-minute video with this YouTuber's commentary in the middle of it, but like this interviewer, this is like minutes of her trying, like fishing for comments about this topic. Again, an interviewer with an actress who just had a movie come out recently, doing an interview to talk about movies and TV shows, her job as a Hollywood celebrity. And this interviewer, this fucking snaky, witchy HR department manager, spent so much time trying to get her to say something. How do you feel about the internet's outrage to your commercial? How do you feel that the president had your back? How do you feel? Do you want to say anything about the commercial? No. And now she finally is just straight up going to just bring it up directly. Like, she's asked 3 or 4 different questions, gotten nothing. And now she's finally just going to go directly at it. Now she's finally like, fine, I'm just going to fucking bring up I'm going to say the white supremacy words. I'm going to bring it out.
White people shouldn't joke about genetic superiority. Like, that was kind of like the criticism, broadly speaking.
She just looks over it. Some people were joking that Sydney Sweeney looked high right here. Like, some people think she was high. Hopefully not, here on Disco Acid Cult TV, we advocate for all potheads being deported. All stoners should be sent immediately to Alligator Alcatraz. But, no, some people were joking that Sydney Sweeney looks stoned right here. I think she just looks over it. To me, this is the face of someone who's just like, dude, you've asked me 4 or 5 times about this fucking topic. Like, can we talk about something else? Like, can we talk about my tits, please? Anything other than, please stop talking about white supremacy to me.
And since you are talking about this, I just wanted to give you an opportunity to talk.
I love how she's like, since you were talking about this. No, you're talking about this, lady. Since you were talking about this, Sydney. No, you mean the topic that you've brought up 5 times now that I've said nothing about this whole time? God, you can't fucking hate these, like, interviewer ladies enough nowadays. They're just fucking insufferable. Just this fucking insufferable Lord Farquaad, snaky, witchy HR department manager looking to force people into disavowing white supremacy. Like, GQ can't pay this lady little enough, in my opinion. Fucking take this lady's paycheck away from her.
Talk about that specifically.
Again, ignore the friendly tone, ignore the smile, ignore all that nonsense. What you're seeing right here is the evil way the left-wing media ends up forcing ideological rigidity, because she's like, oh yeah, like, you know, is there something you want to say? Let me just open the floor. I'm giving you the opportunity, Sydney Sweeney, acting like the famous actress isn't actually highlighting her stupid ass show for GQ magazine, and in reality, the exact opposite is happening right here. She's getting an opportunity to interview somebody that's more famous and more notable than her. She's like, oh, I'll give you the opportunity if there's anything you want to say about this particular ad.
Exactly. I've asked you 4 times about this. You've said nothing. So now I'm going to give you the opportunity to talk about it. Like, dude, just fucking insufferable shit.
There's anything you want to speak up on right now, I'm providing you my platform, Sydney, and I'm so smiley while I'm doing it so that you could disavow your work. And Sydney's like, no, I have nothing that I want to say about this. And then she pushes back even harder, and she's like, in this political climate, isn't it horrible that you're a white person and talking about how you have good genes? I mean, white supremacy, am I right? Am I right, Sydney? Are you going to do that, or we're going to boycott your movie? I mean, some people might not see your movie, not that we're explicitly encouraging it, even though, again, we're spending the latter half of this interview bitching about your commercial.
I think that when I have an issue that I want to speak about, people will hear.
And right here, Sydney Sweeney completely shuts it down.
It is awesome. That is a great moment. That's, like, this should be studied by like any aspiring actors or actresses, or just like anybody that wants to get into Hollywood should just study this fucking interviewer, or not this interviewer. Well, yeah, study this snaky, witchy interviewer, but study Sydney Sweeney for sure. It's like a master class on just like, bro, leave me the fuck alone about this. If this was like a stubborn like man instead of Sydney Sweeney in the seat, the equivalent answer would have been, bro, shut the fuck up already. Like, are we done here? Are we almost done?
I have an issue that I want to speak about, people will hear.
And right here, Sydney Sweeney completely shuts it down. And it's funny because if you go into the comments of this particular interview, I'm assuming there is the typical GQ audience, and they're saying, oh, she missed an opportunity to save herself right there when they brought up the white supremacy thing. But
you know, the people on Twitter, there are people who are saying, oh, this is Sydney Sweeney refusing to disavow white supremacy, clearly meaning that she sides with the white supremacy. It's just all fucking retarded. We're living in the most low IQ times in human history.
in reality, she handled it perfectly fine. She said, look, if there's something that I want to say, if I want to talk about political issues or whatever, then I'll say it. But I'm not going to backpedal. This is the implication, because she said basically what I just said right there. But I'm not going to backtrack and like downgrade this campaign that I was on that was actually quite successful just because you people have an issue with her being an attractive white woman. It's absurd. It's ridiculous. And again, all these different ridiculous smears are part of the left's ideological enforcement against people like Sydney Sweeney, who might stray out of line just a little bit, even if she's not actually right-wing in any possible way. And this is how they enforce that ideology. This is how they make people bend the knee and comply with what they want by consistent attacks on her. Like Sydney Sweeney will be hearing about this jeans ad in 10 years, a la the Chick-fil-A story. There will still be people complaining about it, even though there was nothing wrong with the ad. She's attractive. Saying somebody has good genes or won the genetic lottery is just saying that they are attractive. It's not a racial thing at all whatsoever, yet these people will go out of their way to pretend it is, because their view of beauty, that it's something that they can make by enforcement in the culture, just happens to be completely wrong. But
whatever this video is right here, I do not even know, but I'm not clicking on that shit right now. Oh yeah, right on, spot on. This guy's good. The Sean guy is good. Dude, like half the reason I wish I could be like a famous person is because I want to be interviewed by people like that, like so badly. I wish I could get this YouTube channel to pop off. I wish I woke up tomorrow with like 3 million subscribers and a bunch of offers for Hollywood interviewers, just so I could sit in that seat and just talk shit to these fucking witchy ladies that want to interview celebrities and get them to disavow white supremacy. It's like people are saying uBlock Origin, but it may not work on Chrome. It does on Firefox. I use Chrome, so maybe it'd be a bad candidate for that. That's that chick that said, bro. Okay, that's what I thought it was. That's who I thought it was. That girl, that's, man, also crazy times that we have white girls who are getting famous just for saying the N-word. That shit's hilarious. That girl was so funny. I did end up making a Discord. I did make the Discord. Fizz is in there. That was really it, though. I was just getting on tonight to talk more about the Sydney Sweeney thing. Just because, like I said, I found that clip that I couldn't believe I didn't see the first time when I covered it last night. But she's uncancelable. It's not going to happen. They want it so bad. They want it so bad. You can tell. Like, the fat girls and the witchy HR departments and the nerds on Twitter who have nothing better to do than try to play social activists and talk about identity politics and these retarded fucking people. You know, they want Sydney Sweeney so bad. Like, that is for sure their target. They want Sydney Sweeney more than Michael Myers wanted Laurie Strode in the original Halloween. That's the level we're at right now with these fucking nerds and these fat chicks and these wannabe activists on Twitter. They want Sydney Sweeney just as bad as Michael Myers wanted Laurie Strode. Oh, nice, I'll pop in. Yeah, I don't know how to... Like, to get on someone's Discord, don't you need the link? Like, I would have to send a link or whatever. I don't know if you can just search up Discords. I don't know. I'm still new to it, but I posted the link on Instagram on a story the other day, but, or yesterday. It is actually still up on the story for another hour. What's it called? The Discord is... Disco Acid Cult Chat. So no TV, replace the TV with chat. Yeah, Disco Acid Cult Chat. That is the name. I didn't know you could just search up Discord accounts like that. But if you can, yeah, you look up Disco Acid Cult Chat. We have one channel for topics. So like if anybody has any ideas they want to see talked about on the live stream, they can put them in there. Which would be awesome if I could get more people in there recommending shit, because I'm terrible at finding topics to talk about. That's why I've been talking about Sydney Sweeney for 2 days in a row now. But that's the main thing I hope to use it for. I hope I can get a good handful of people in there and they start recommending topics to be brought up on the stream. I'm gonna try. I don't know if you can either. Yeah, no, I don't know. I don't know if you can. I know you can't copy and paste. But what you can do, or what I can do, is I can type out the link, I guess. It's like the best thing I can think to do. All right, this is going to be so ridiculous. I will enter in chat right now. And then you're just going to have to type out the link, because I don't think you can copy and paste a comment from chat. either. Right there. Yeah. That is the link for the Discord. Get in there and start talking shit. HTTPS, discord.gg, VDQ, EN9FT. Yeah, I got it right. We're good. That is the link. That is the link for the Discord. Oh, nice. Nice. Notification. We got shit in the Discord. So yeah, so you see the two channels. I pretty much use the anything goes channel is for just like general chat. So like when you said AO, I'm not going to be a dick, but you put it in the wrong channel. I'm just now learning Discord too. So yeah, there's two channels. The anything goes channel we use for general chat, just kind of like whatever talk, and then topics for live shows. That's where like, you know, if you were on Twitter and you saw some news story about, you know, what we like to talk about, pop culture shit, like actors and musicians and rock stars and shit. Put it in your YouTube description along with your other links. Oh yeah, I'll probably put it on the Instagram. I have the most followers. The Instagram has the most followers out of all of my my pages and whatnot. So I'll probably post it on the Instagram bio. But yeah, like I said, if you ever find any stories that you would want to get brought up on the live stream, that'd be where to put it. And then I'll see it and I'll probably use it depending on what it is. But yeah, you know, like I said, you probably figured it out. A lot of pop culture stuff. I know it sounds funny to say. I was going to say I generally try to avoid politics stuff, but it's impossible nowadays, basically. Like I just played I just played the Actual Justice Warrior channel, which is a political commentator. Politics is like so ingrained in our pop culture nowadays, which I fucking hate. You know, I would rather talk about like tabloid pop culture. I would love to talk about. Like I wish this was the early 2000s so I could talk about Britney Spears shaving her head, shit like that. But, you know, it is 2025, so politics are going to get brought up at some point. But yeah, fucking it. Thanks for getting into Discord. That is awesome. Under your video on YouTube, you did the. Oh, yeah, that is true. That is true. That is a good point. I'll have to put that in there too. That's like a copy and paste thing that I have. Just pops up automatically on all my videos. So I'll add the Discord link in there too. That is a good point. But all right, shit piss. I'm probably about to get off of here. I mostly just did this live chat for clips. I want to get some clips for the Instagram and for the TikTok. But thank you for stopping by. You stopped it from being a lonely stream. I mean, you cannot avoid it. Need to go with their layouts. Right on, right on. I'll probably be back on Monday. I mean, you know the drill at this point. It's Monday and Wednesday for sure. And then just whenever else if I feel like it. Like I said, tonight I just hopped on to get some clips, talk more about Sydney Sweeney. But yeah, I for sure will be back on Monday. Monday I'll have Proto Max. We usually spend the first 15, 20 minutes talking about Dragon Ball GT. So if you're not into Dragon Ball GT, then you can skip the first 15 or 20 minutes and then we get into other pop culture stuff. And then Wednesdays, I've got Johnny on. We usually do more onto music and stuff. The problem I was gaming. Right on. Whatever you play, I don't know what you play when you play games. Bring it up on Monday though. Protomax is also a gamer, so you could always talk gaming and shit with him when we're on Monday. Monday, he's also going to have a better setup too. I sent him my nice Shure microphone, my nice Shure brand microphone. So on Monday, Protomax will have just as good as audio as I do. So it'll be like the best stream audio wise, pretty much for the first time. You know, he's been on the Apple, the earbuds with the little microphone, and they sound a little dark and muffled. But Monday we will be top tier audio quality for the first time, so that'll be a good time. But all right, I'm gonna hit the outro. Again, thanks for getting in the Discord. If you ever want to talk shit, feel free to say whatever in there. Fizz is also in the Discord, and you know, since we are not entirely sure that you're not Fizz, you guys could prove that you are not the same person in the Discord, basically. Tonight is actually a good sign that you are not Fizz, though, for the first time. Just because Fizz has not been here. Fizz told me his girlfriend was coming over, so he wasn't going to be in chat. So the fact that you've been in chat all night kind of makes me also think that, yeah, you are not Fizz. So right on. Good time. I'll hit the outro, I'll get out of here, and I'll see you soon.
And we're all here today to groove and have a beautiful time together, and that it's only the beginning. Sometimes I think I'm drunk, and then I realize I am drunk. Sometimes I